Good afternoon and welcome to Small Business Matters, where we talk about all things small business. We're going to talk about the entrepreneurs that make these businesses go. We're going to talk about their business as well. We're going to get to know them personally, and we're going to maybe talk about some tips and tricks, what made them successful, their challenges, and you're going to see some products today, some really cool products. So without further ado, I wanted to introduce to you Mr. Jose Ares, the president of Stairs Group. How you doing, Jose?
What's going on? How you doing, Carlos?
Good. Thank you for coming here today. It's a pleasure to have you here. Known you for a while now, and but I don't really know about you personally. So why don't you start there? A little bit of your background.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on here, and what a tour of this place.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Community newspapers is really it, huh?
It's incredible. You start walking through all the sections and seeing the newspapers, the typewriters, everything that's going on. You feel like if you went back in time. It was incredible. Yeah. And I love the baseball section.
So
there.
You're pretty young. You know what a typewriter is? You remember that?
I seem like I'm pretty young. I'm actually 50 years old.
Okay.
So, I'm not that.
All right.
I'm up there. I'm up there in age.
All right.
But yeah, the typewriters, all that, was pretty cool seeing everything in this community newspaper. And I felt like if I'm coming back, in time, back to the future to say.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, what is your question, actually?
We wanted to get to know you a little bit about your background. I don't know where you're born, where you grew up.
So I'm Cuban American, born and raised.
In Miami?
In Miami, and went to all this Coral Terrace, West Miami, South Miami. And graduated. I played baseball, so baseball is in my blood. I played since I was 5 years old until I couldn't anymore. I actually made it to the minor leagues and played there. And that's where I think everything started entrepreneurial-wise, because that's what taught me the lessons of how you could fail, 7 times out of 10 at-bats, and you're still considered an all-star. 300. All you got to do is hit 300. So all of those things have helped me in business, and that's what I bring to the table when I am dealing with customers, dealing with the whole your whole family of employees. You see it yourself. You're trying to navigate your ship, and you got to make sure that you know where you're going. And of course, sometimes you have some hiccups, but that is life. That's being an entrepreneur. And working 40 hours a week doesn't exist in my book, because we work a lot more than that when you're an owner. So it's pretty cool. And the other thing that I wanted to say is thank you for the opportunity to tell my story and be here sitting with you. And I know that you're the marketing wizard, when it comes to marketing. And that's why I think it's going to be a good interview, because what I do is t-shirts. We do custom t-shirts, hats, apparel, and I could show you what we do. And as a marketing genius as you would know that.
Thank you for the compliment.
Well, good. I'm trying to give you a compliment because I think you're really good at your job. When we're going to our meetings and you're talking about how Google has changed their algorithm on the Google reviews, and don't do Google reviews and don't do a lot of them, because then they'll block you. All these little tips and tricks that help all of us, extremely. And I thank you for that. And one of the things that I love, that you actually teach is when every time we're in eating, we're at our meeting, and for most of the people don't know that we're in Profit Inc.
Profit Inc. is a networking organization that we're both a part of.
Yeah, so every time you get up there, you always have something good to say and something helpful for the entrepreneur, which is great for me. And I know a lot about SEO and those type of of marketing tools, but you know, like a lot more. And then it helps me because
Well, you know a lot more about T-shirts and hats and stuff.
Whoa,
so,
yeah.
so we're even now. We're even. So Jose, going back to baseball, what other lessons did you learn as an athlete? I mean, you made it to the minor leagues, which is a lot. You know, the percentage probably of kids that come out of high school make it to minor league is probably, you know, very small. So what other lessons did you have? Mentors, you know, maybe a manager, that coach that helped you out?
I mean, you know that you have mentors throughout your career in baseball. My dad has been my mentor. He's the one that taught me how to play baseball. He was always the coach. Whether we were in high school, you couldn't play in certain times. You couldn't play baseball as a team, as your high school team. And our head coach will tell my dad, "Hey, you want to coach the kids?" And, you know, and that way we could kind of like sneak in a practice, sneak in games that we would be able to play. And he's always been the person that's helped me out. He's always been the one that's pushed me. And, you know, he's been the biggest mentor. And, you know, of course, looking at the major leaguers, you know, out there, my favorite baseball player of all time is Pete Rose. I love that he hustled. I love the way he played, the way he attacked the bases and just hustled all the time. And that I took that into what I did in baseball. You know, run out each and every ground ball, whether it's going to be an out, run it out. And that's what I kind of do in business. You know, go all out and try to do as much as you can to help out that customer. Because in reality, the customer is your bread and butter. That's who's
Right.
gonna provide you, you know, your cash flow. But you have to treat them well. You have to give them good products, and all of those things that would help will help them, because they help you. You give a service, and then you give good service. People come back. And, you know, and that's what we've been doing, and you know, getting off track of the mentor thing.
No, but I love that because, you know, that makes me think of a lot of other questions, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Keep going.
I mean, because it all intertwines, because being an entrepreneur, as you know, it's not easy. You have to, and being a baseball player is not easy.
Right.
You have to play offense, defense. You have to know how to run the bases. It's all these technical things. And then when you get into business, well, now you got to learn who's the accountant. You are. Who's the marketing genius? You are. Who's the salesman? You are. Who's the person that's going to put the production line? So you basically wear 10 hats at once. And eventually you're hoping that you could get replaced from every single position and have somebody better than you to replace you. And I've learned, you know, that sometimes you got to give it up. You have to bring in that stud, that reliever in to help you out. So, and then that way you could continue growing that business.
That's 100%, because you can't do it all. You can't do it all. And if you try to do it all, you're not going to grow. It's impossible.
Yeah.
So, and I understand that. I mean, it's hard to delegate. It's hard to delegate definitely certain things that, you know, in your mind, you're the only one that can do it. You're smiling, right? I get the same feeling sometimes, but you do have to let it go to grow. Let it go to grow.
That's a good one. I'm going to write that
write that one down.
For sure.
All right. So something you said really caught my attention. You likened your staff to your family. What's that all about? You know, what makes your staff family? You know, your role, their role. Why do you think of them as family? I
mean, it's really hard when you have a group of people that you could trust with what you do, because, of course, if I do a T-shirt and I make a T-shirt, my T-shirt, I put pride into it, and whether I'm screen printing it, embroidering it, whatever it is, and then these people I'm giving them the customer and saying, hey, look, customer, my employees are going to treat you just as good as I do it. So it's like when you go in to get un cafecito in the morning, You go to the same old lady because that lady puts a little better sugar in there, mixes it a little better. So I'm trying to get my employees to do that, is to make sure that they enjoy and appreciate that T-shirt. Each T-shirt means something, and that's what I try to instill in our family, because it has to be a family, but it sometimes gets confusing, because now you kind of don't want to scream at anybody. You don't want to tell people, hey, you did something wrong. But as an owner manager, you have to do it. And that's hard for me, because for me, I don't like to be mean.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've always had a problem with, is being too nice. So I'm reading books to try to help me, deal with those situations. But yeah, I think the baseball family has moved over to the entrepreneurial family.
Okay.
And that's why I think it works well. And again, you could have an employee that might not get along with the rest of the employees. You have to be that person to say, hey, look, our job is, to make it to the World Series. So how do we make it to the World Series? Is playing and being a group. And that's how you become a well groomed team, is having those people around you. And of course, you think nobody could do it better than you.
Right.
And that's the problem.
That's a big problem.
And you know it. You're trying to grow your business, and at the same time you're saying, man, but they should do it this way. So that's why I'm reading books to see, how do I transition that, and instead of work in the business, work on the business.
And that is your role as the head person at your business. And we talked about employees, and that's always I say a hot button for all entrepreneurs, all managers really. And just to give you an idea, I used to, in another life, I had 300 employees under me.
Oh wow.
And 75% of my day was spent on employee issues. So the other 25 was probably meetings, so I'm not sure when I got my work done. Like you said, 40-hour work weeks did not exist. But what do you find that is that a big challenge for you, is handling employees? Because you already told me, about you don't want to be mean, but obviously there's ways to reprimand an employee where you don't put them down, you're not mean to them. So is that a challenge for you?
Absolutely. That's the hardest thing to do, is to reprimand anybody. I don't like to be reprimanded, and I don't like to give it to them either. And that's something that I'm trying to learn. And as an entrepreneur, you want to try to have that balance. You have to be their friend in a way, or be nice, but still them respect you and make sure that they follow your lead.
Right.
And you're the leader of the pack. You're the one that's doing everything. You created this, the business itself. You're making things flow. Everybody's eating from what you're doing. I have to provide for my family, for my kids, and they got to do the same for their kids and their families, and all these mouths. So if you start thinking about how many mouths you're feeding, and you're having to make sure that this thing grows, that these people could eat, and I could eat, and everybody could eat. So it's really hard for me to do that.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it wasn't hard, if things weren't hard, then everybody would be successful.
Right.
And
everybody would have a business. Everybody would have.
Yeah.
So one of the things that and the whole angle of you treating people and thinking of your staff as family, is that one of my biggest challenges throughout my whole career has been to have employees think like owners. And to me, that's like the holy grail. If you can get your employees to do that, and sure, there's other stuff as well, but if they are watching out for the bottom line, if they're really concerned as concerned as you are for customers, right. You're gonna rock. That business is gonna grow.
I wish there were more of those people out there, and I know there are people like that, and it's more of, an intrapreneur than an entrepreneur. Those are the ones that you want. You want the intrapreneur, the person that's in that business that wants to build that business with you, but doesn't maybe want the responsibilities of the number one, number two. And those are the people that you want to keep next to you. And of course, it's hard to find that talent. And then when you find it, they might go somewhere else. And it's amazing to me how, like Google, Facebook, all of these people get those people that want to work, and they'll work hundreds of hours, but they do it because they love it. They want to, and they don't want to be the owner of Facebook.
Right.
They just want to be part of it.
Right.
You know, that it's incredible how they do that. I
Because
wish.
I mean, part of it, in my opinion anyway, is that, you know, there's definitely a cool factor in working for a Facebook
For sure.
or a Google. So I guess having a job there is almost like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, all right, you're an entrepreneur, you could go into any business. How did you get into this business? And how do you refer to it? Because, all right, I'm going to date myself in my, you know, my age when I was dealing with these kinds of products. I actually was a partner at an agency that did some of this stuff. You know, we call them premium items. We call them tchotchkes. Now it's swag and merch.
Yeah, swag and merch. Yeah.
So how did you get into the swag and merch business?
Man, so back in 2000, I was in the real estate business in 2000. And from 2000 to 2008, you know how things were. It was amazing. I grew a business from me by myself to having an office here, one in St. Augustine, and then 2008 hit. And what do I do now? This is what I was doing. All I knew was baseball, and then I knew that I wanted to do something fun, something to help people. How could I help people? Getting them mortgages, and that was really satisfying to me. When that, you know, died off, I had no idea what to do. Nothing. Everything that I would try to do in financial services was down the drain. What do you do? And so I started dabbling in reading books on SEO, reading books on.
So back then you were already learning about the internet.
Learning about the internet, because I had a friend of mine that's still, since 1996, this guy's been in computers.
Okay.
And he's huge. And he would tell me, hey, look, read this book on SEO, just learn it, whatever. And then I started reading SEO. And then after that, I started learning how to build a website. And then from the website, I learned how to.
So you built websites?
I could build websites.
On WordPress or?
I could do WordPress. Is simple.
Okay, yeah.
Dreamweaver.
Dreamweaver, okay.
Know. But, you know, those help you with code. Dreamweaver is a little more technical. That you have to know how to code it a little more. And then from there, I started trying to do apps, mobile apps, and I opened up a mobile app company. And I did that for a few years. But what happens with websites and mobile apps that they give you a down payment, then they might not pay you for 6 months.
Right.
Because you got to finish all the work. And then it was that in-between money that I was always, you know, you have to save, let's say 3,000 has to last you.
Cash flow is king.
Exactly. And there's no cash flow. And then guess what? This came around. I had a friend of mine that had a DTG. And
what's a DTG?
It's direct to garment.
Okay.
It basically prints like a T-shirt, like a printer, regular, inkjet like that, but it prints on top of the shirt. And nobody knew how to work it. He was like, I don't know how this thing works. It's not working, whatever. I got it to work, and I started making T-shirts. But it is a slow process. It takes about 7 minutes just to basically print the shirt. Then another minute to cure it.
So this is one by one?
This is one by one. So, you know, the funny story is that when I first started, I get Ultras around the corner, and all of a sudden, Ultra, one of the clubs in Ultra, they asked me, hey, I need 400 T-shirts. And I'm like, no problem.
All right, that's got to be a great story.
Oh my God, it was nonstop. I was nonstop working just to make a T-shirt, And then by the end of the day, when I did the numbers, I'm making like $1 an hour, you know, so it didn't make sense. And
Yeah.
that's when I started learning about screen printing and how screen printing could really boost your time. So I could do now, you know, depending on what machine I use. If I use a manual machine, I could do, you know, 50, 60 shirts in an hour. I put it on the automatic, I could do 100 and something, 200, 300, you know, so the speed is there. And that's,
It was like discovering
oh my God.
gold or
Oh,
something.
gold. Oh my God. It was like, you know, pay dirt. There you go. But the cash flow from the t-shirts is right away. So that helped me with getting that cash flow.
All right. So now you've got the process, right? You've got it down. You can make many instead of one at a time.
Yeah.
So now how do you go out and get clients?
Well, what's good is that I love to speak to people, talk to people. I'll go door to door. However I need to do it, I'll try to get into the door. And I know a lot of people, and I guess I just started letting people know this is what I do. I do screen printing. And at first I only did screen printing. And people were coming to me, you know,
So
with
were you
jobs
literally going door to door?
yeah, and I still do. I
Okay.
still do that. What I do is my trick, and it's not even a trick. It's, you know, investing in myself and in my product. But I'll get this hat,
Okay.
like the hat that I gave you here, and I'll make a hat.
Thank you for that, by the way.
You're welcome. So I'll get a hat that's really high end. I'll put their logo on there. And if you do the numbers, you know, I'm spending probably, you know, $20-something on this one hat for the person. And I go and I give it to them. And I tell them, hey, look, I made a hat for you. You know, I do screen printing and embroidery, whatever. And I give them the hat because this is better than any business card. Who's
100%.
gonna throw that away?
Nobody.
And then
Worst case scenario, they're going to give it away and somebody else is going to wear it.
Right. But what I do is I'll give them my hat, but I've noticed that giving them a hat with their logo, it's the best thing ever. And you just don't understand how many companies I've gotten just by doing that. And of course, it cost me a little bit of money to do it. But again,
The return.
the return of investment is there. And that's what I started doing. And little by little, you start gaining more exposure and more people start coming back. And it's all about return business. You know,
Yes.
Those construction companies, the roofing companies, those are the ones that come and need shirts every 3 months. They dirty them or
Right.
get tar on them. And those are the ones that come back. But you also have the sport teams, you have the restaurants, everybody has a uniform. So when you go out there, sometimes you're like, who do I hit up? Who do I talk to? Do I talk to the restaurant owner or do I speak to the baseball coach? And then that's something that I've had to try to narrow down, because if you start doing that, you're going to be all over the place. So you have to concentrate in one section and just go for it. So if it's roofers, I'll just go after roofers for a time. Then after that, then I'll go after construction companies, schools, whatever it is, but one by one, because it's impossible for you to do it all. You know, but that's the trick that I've come up with.
That's a really interesting approach, because there's a marketing guru, older gentleman, his name is Dan Kennedy, and he always says the riches are in the niches. But the way you're working it is interesting, because you don't necessarily pick one niche, you pick one niche at a time.
Yeah.
So you're working, you know, construction companies, then you'll move on to roofers, and you'll move on to sports teams.
Right.
Really interesting. What's really fascinating, though, to me, is here you are, you're learning all about SEO, all about the internet, and then you're knocking on doors.
And let me tell you why. Because sometimes you start doing the SEO, which, mind you, my phone doesn't stop ringing. That you go to the office and the phone's ringing nonstop. And it's because of all the SEO that I've done. But
when did you start doing SEO for your website?
it was pretty early on, because
That's why.
when I
That's
first,
one of the big reasons.
Yeah, when I first started, what I did was I had a WordPress site. Well, I still have a WordPress site, and that WordPress site helps me, with the SEO, with the key names,
all
and
the keywords, all that stuff. Okay.
And I just try to make sure that I blog enough. The blogs
Get
are
the
the ones,
keywords in the blogs, and that's
But of course, it's hard to blog all the time because there's so much that goes into it. But I've gotten to a point that I get enough calls, from doing the SEO and the local listings. Those
very
are
important.
really good too. So a lot of these little things that I started learning from reading books, then I started learning little tweaks here and there. And that's why when you started saying about the Google reviews, I know that things are always changing, and I'm not always in the know because I'm not into that 100%. And
right, you can't be.
Yeah, it's impossible. But with you saying that, I'm like, I like that. And the other thing that they told me were, doing reviews as a video review. That those are more
Yes.
are a little more powerful.
Yep.
I started doing those, and those are little things that you start doing. But as a business owner, again, you have to dabble in everything because no matter what, the key part of your business is marketing.
Yeah.
So the marketing, I don't want to just do Google and then what about all the other people, that don't have Google or not doing that? I'm not going to sit down and wait for them. I'm going to go get it. That's how I see it. And you do it. I did an Instagram thing, like a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I put a post on my Instagram, and then I saw to see how many people I could get business from. And then I went door to door. Who do you think won? Door to door.
Yeah.
It was instant.
Right.
I'll get a person. Let's say I went in the week, I visited 10 people. I'll get 3 people to get T-shirts.
You're batting 300.
No, I'm batting 300. I'm there.
You're doing well. You're doing well.
I think of baseball all the time. But that's what I did that. But of course, you need it all. If you don't have it all,
you're spot on, because I always tell people you have to take an integrated approach. Not any one thing is going to bring you the business. So really, you should be on social media. You should do something about Google. You do have to have a good website. You do need reviews.
Yeah.
And if knocking on doors works for you, you keep doing it. I always tell people that. What are you doing now? Is it working? Yes. Keep doing that. Keep doing that. We'll add this other stuff, but keep doing that.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I don't want to stay stuck. I learned in 2008. I had a lot of money. I had a lot of properties. I had a lot going for me. Then one day it was all gone.
Yeah.
And then
you and a lot of other people.
Yeah. And I learned from that because the pandemic came and I could have been in the same boat. But instead, I had no idea how to make a mask. I went and I started Googling, and my machines don't make masks. My machine isn't that old school, that La Viejita's doing their mask.
Yeah.
No, I don't. My thing, I had to invent some type of apparatus from my machines to make it, to be able to sell it. And then I had the sublimation, which you asked me about sublimation earlier.
Explain what that is.
So it's basically a dye that goes into it's pretty simple. It's a special paper, and that paper has a special ink that goes on it. That special ink attracts to polyester.
So what does it allow you to do that you can't do in screen printing, for example?
Well, when you do sublimation, you don't feel anything on the shirt. It becomes part of the shirt or the mask. If you do screen printing, you're going to feel the ink.
The ink, got it.
So that's the problem. And also, if you're doing screen printing, you're not going to do one mask or one shirt of 5 colors.
Right.
It's not worth it.
Right.
But here, you're basically printing a piece of paper, and then you heat press it at a certain degree, and you could get that print out. And that's what I did. The pandemic, I did not stay home. I stayed home for a week. After a week, I had one of my friends from Diced. They called me and said, "Hey, we need masks. We can't get them anywhere. Amazon couldn't get them.
Yeah.
4 to 6 weeks out." I went, "I'll figure it out." And I went and I started making the masks, and from there, I started making everybody masks because nobody had materials,
Right.
and nobody could do them. And you couldn't find a sewing machine anywhere.
Wow.
I mean, so I had at least embroidery machines that I was making them. They weren't the best masks, but they worked.
Right. So we're wrapping up now. What is hot right now in merch and swag? You know.
Well, you have the boat show right now.
Oh, that's right.
So I'm gonna say these type of shirts.
Okay.
These are the
Hold it
fishing
up. Hold it up
shirts.
so people can see it.
So these are the fishing shirts. Oh, try to get it there. So these shirts here, they have like an SPF on it.
Okay.
So they protect you from the sun because believe it or not, you have a cotton shirt, the sun goes through it. Those rays go through it.
Right.
People don't think it does. That protects you from it. We also have it in hoodie style.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of cool summer items coming out that
You have your own line, right?
I do. I have this line of fishing shirts.
Okay.
Which I'll drop. stairsgroup.com is where you would go, and then in there there's links on the merch that I have, and also there you could design your own T-shirts.
Oh, wow.
You could, if you want a hat and you want to design it, you could
Right.
design it. So through our website, we have that mobile aspect of it that you could go ahead and design your T-shirt.
Design your own.
Yeah,
Very
design
cool.
it, check out, pay right there, and move on. If they don't know how to design, they could call us and we could design it for them.
Mm-hmm.
So we have all these things in place that'll help them out. But the hottest thing, to be honest with you, at this point we're in winter now, so you have the hoodies.
Right.
There's a bunch of cool different hoodies.
Okay.
Dry fit hoodies that have fleeced in them.
Wow, very cool.
They're really cool. Those are, if you were seeing the Super Bowl or any of those playoff games,
Yeah.
if you notice that there were the sideline, they had all black hoodies, and those black hoodies were from Nike, and Nike they have that. It's a dry fit with the fleece underneath, which is really cool.
That's crazy.
And those are the ones that they were all wearing, all of them. Everybody was wearing those hoodies because those are the newest hoodies in the market. But I have, not only do we have the hoodies that are from Nike, Adidas, or whatever, from those brands, but we have the cheaper versions, but not that they're cheaper. They're the non-brands.
Right.
Brands that you don't know, brands that you could actually...
But the quality is still there.
Quality is just the same. The difference is that they might have a tearaway label.
Right.
On here, there's a tearaway label. So I could tear this out.
And put another label in
I
there?
could put my label on here.
Got it.
And now this is my T-shirt that I created, and it's mine completely.
So let's say I wanted a line of T-shirts. You could do that for me too.
Yeah, of course,
all
of
right.
course. I have, again, I've printed for a lot of people, from the Marlins to the Heat, Dolphins. I've done T-shirts for them. I've done some stuff for people that want to do their own brand.
Okay.
We get them these T-shirts or other shirts that you could do the inner label, woven labels, any of those customized parts of the shirt that you want to do. The hats, you could customize them. So there's a bunch of cool features and things that you could do if you want to be a brand. We help them through the whole process. But I think it's just a matter of figuring out what it is that you want to do.
Right.
If that's what you want to do, a brand, you have to do something different than if you're just, a construction company.
Right.
And everybody wants to now become
Absolutely.
a brand.
So don't worry, I'm not looking to
No, I
have my
know.
own brand.
No, but I would love to be, the person that prints for you.
There you go.
But
All right. Jose, thanks a million for being on the
No,
show.
thank you
Really
so much.
appreciate it. And we'll see you next week on Small Business Matters.